Oh, g'day, champions. This is just a little day in the life of a tech. A lot of amp manufacturers are using hard-to-source parts these days, partially due to space constraints. Everyone expects everything to be the size of a pack of smokes these days, like 1000-watt amps and whatnot. This is a 1000-watt amp from Markbase. It's their Ninja. Every single pot on the front panel required replacement. These are sort of sealed pots. You can sort of pry the plastic rear plate back and get some lubricant in there sometimes, but results are not guaranteed. So this is about a 10-year-old amp. The front board is a separate module that's got all the pots mounted on it, and it's got one remotely mounted pot onto a header. That's this one down here. That's the master volume. Every single one of them was really scratchy and did not respond to cleaning and cycling, so we had to replace them. Now, I had a donor board which had another issue that was just in my parts bucket, so I pulled all the pots off that to save this guy a bit of money, and he needs it in a reasonably quick turnaround. So extra labour, but no cost for the pots, and they're in good condition. It's tested, and now it's very quiet and performing well. But let me run you through part of the reason why modern amplifiers can cost a lot just for a simple thing like pot replacement. It's not so much the labour. It's not so much the part itself. It's hunting the parts down, digging through data sheets, trying to find them from weird sources, paying exorbitant shipping, particularly here in Australia. This is why repairs cost what they do. I know we rattle this can quite a bit, us techs, but we can sometimes feel like we're screaming out into the void when you get customer after customer after customer coming in and saying, oh, why does it cost so much? It's just a bad pot. I could have done that myself. Well, yeah, well, you try it then, buddy. So I'll run you through how we hunt for these proprietary components and what we can do when the ideal part is not available. So for an example here, we've got a small pot. It's supposedly a 9mm pot, but the body casing actually reads about 9.5 across. So about 9.5 millimeters. The height of the body is 11 millimeters. All of these are parameters that need to be confirmed. Things like how far back are the leads from the front of the casing. This is stuff that you can't find in parametric search. You've actually got to dig through the data sheets. So looking at that one, the leads are 5mm back from the front of the casing. The bushing itself is about 5mm long, pretty much bang on 5mm long. And the overall is 15, meaning the shaft itself is 10mm. Now the shaft is knurled and slotted, and the diameter is 6mm. And the diameter of the bushing is about just under 7mm, so that's probably the thread. It's probably an M7. It's a 50k linear pot. You can see by the B50k there, B52s. Sometimes you can pry back this plastic here and get a bit of lube in there, but results, as I say, are not guaranteed. These things aren't really serviceable. They're meant to be replaced, and they're very cheap, but only when you buy 100,000 of them. If you're buying one of them, you might be looking at in the order from $7 to $10 each, plus shipping, and that's Australian dollars. So don't panic, Americans. I always speak in Australian dollars. There are different currencies in the world. You should look it up. So single gang, no detent. These are all the things I'm spouting off here. They're all parameters that we need to search. So you might find this series of pot, but you've got 12 other parameters that need to be met before it's suitable for this particular amp. Now, if you're designing stuff, you can use whatever you want. What these guys do is they get massive bulk orders of these custom-made pots. Often you can't even buy them in single quantities because they've done an order of, 500,000 or something. And the pot manufacturers will go, yes, sir. 3 bags full, sir. But to an average Joe repair tech, we get pretty much ignored if you can't get it from a vendor, like a retail vendor like DigiKey, Mouse, RS Components, CE Distribution for more money. Places locally like Ivatco, who have actually probably gone and sourced some replacements themselves in quantities of like 10,000 or so. You're pretty much screwed. So in some cases, you can remotely mount a pot, maybe upside down for clearance, and then run some hookup wire to the pads on the PCB. But in a case like this, the body's just way too small to be able to do that. So you kind of need to find the correct part. And as technology gets smaller and smaller and more compact, and people demand that, they want an amplifier that does 1,000 watts and fits in their gig bag, it's going to get worse and worse. So there is an argument for old school amplifiers, large, chunky, heavy things, because you can pretty much keep them running indefinitely because they're made out of generic jelly bean components that you can source almost anywhere. So let's have a look on Mouser. We'll see if we can actually source something suitable for this amplifier. And this is only one resistance value, mind you, and one configuration. This does have another dual gang pot there. So let's have a look on Mouser and see if we can hunt these down and start the timer, because time is money, champions. And if it takes me time to find parts, well, I have to charge someone for that, and that someone is the customer. Okay, champions, here we are on Mouser. Potentiometers. Okay, so here's all our parameters. We don't know what brand we're going with yet. There could be Alpha or Burns, I suspect, is what we're after. Let's start with single gang. We know that we want a 50k. So there's a 47 and a 50. If we go 47, chances are that's going to lead us to another series that's not suitable, so we can narrow it down somewhat. Generally in the series, they'll stick to either US or like UK values, 47 or 50. So we'll go 50. We know we want linear. Horizontal and vertical, leave this blank and I'll tell you why in a second. So now we're down to a nice round figure, 500 results remaining. So let's carry on with the stuff that we know, or that we think we know. Now a lot of these specs are entered wrong. When whoever manages the data on these sites, they don't fill in the information at all, or they fill it incorrectly. So if the particular pot, which happens to be the one that we want, has no data entered for the parameter shaft type, by clicking on this, we might be unwittingly excluding the desired pot from this selection because it has nothing in this data field. So therefore, by selecting them, it's excluding the pot that we want. So this is where you're really throwing darts, even just looking for parts. I'm going to enter as little information as possible now, because clearly their parameters aren't written correctly. So it's going to be almost impossible to find the pot we're after if we enter everything correctly. 50k ohm, linear. Let's just start with that. Apply filters. We've got 500 pots eligible. Now the other thing is you can't go off the images. If it's from a completely different series, fair enough. But what you've got to do is dive into the data sheets and actually pass out the part number according to the parameters that they've provided for you in the data sheet, and basically calculate which one you're after. It's an extremely tedious process, and you always find the one you're after and there's like 2 in stock and you need 4 or something like that. So there's too many to choose from here. Let's try one more parameter and see how we go. Now we won't do orientation, and I'll show you why. So if we scroll over and show orientation of these parts. So vertical. To me, vertical means the shaft is poking up from the PCB. And then horizontal should mean it's poking out sideways from the PCB. But then you get that part, the shaft is parallel with the PCB and it says vertical. And then this part, the shaft is parallel with the PCB and it says horizontal. So that orientation field is meaningless because they haven't standardized it. They don't know what it means, or at some point someone who didn't know what it means was entering the data. Different manufacturers might mean horizontal is the shaft. Other manufacturers might think that horizontal is the leads. I don't know, but point being, that's a meaningless field. It may as well not even be there, because it's already contradicted itself just on this level of searching. So we'll ignore orientation for now. Scroll over, ignore power rating and voltage rating because we're dealing with low signal stuff. We could use that, but again, if the pot we're using hasn't got that parameter entered, we're going to be excluding the one that we want from our search results. So really, this search, and DigiKey is much the same. RS is way worse. It's kind of useless, to be honest. It gets you in the ballpark, but you have to sort of take it with a grain of salt, and it really doesn't help much at all. Alright, so what have we got now? We're starting to look like the pots that we want. And it looks like maybe Burns might be the brand that we'll go for. So what I might do is look at this series. So PDT 901. Did I say PDT? PTD. PTD 901. PTD 90. So the 1 must mean different type of pot. So let's narrow it down to that family. Apply the filter again. And we're starting to look a bit closer to what we want. So now we're down to 4 results. But they are available in single quantities, which is what we're after. $3.60, and that would be Australian dollars, excluding tax and excluding shipping. So what parameters are we left with? They're reportedly vertical, but in my book they're horizontal. So that us using that parameter would have excluded all these ones that we want. Tolerance, 20%, close enough for rock and roll. They've all got the same shaft diameter. It looks like the difference is the shaft length. So does 15mm include the bushing, or is it the measurement of just the shaft excluding the bushing? If that's just the shaft, then it's 5mm too long. But let's confirm that. We'll have a look at the data sheets. So it looks like the only difference between these two with the reportedly 15mm shaft is the tolerance. Now I think they're about the same cost. 360, 360. So let's look at both. Then let's look at the data sheets. Okay, so now we have to look at the actual part number we've got. So we're going to have to reduce this window. So what are we looking at? PDT 901-2015K B503. The B503 we can ignore for now because that's the value. That's the B stands for linear. 50 is the number, and then it's got the multiplier there for the resistance. So 50, 000, 50K. What we're interested in is the 901 and the 2015K. So let's see what that means. Okay, so 901 is this part here. 902 is the dual gang version. And then 4 is the 4 gang, 6 gang, 8 gang. And then K is the shaft type. So K, shaft style K. So looking at the how to order over here. PTD 901. 1 equals 1 section, as we just saw. 2, pin style. PC pins, vertical down facing. Okay, so the 2 that's here, 2015K, 2 is number 2. So that's the tolerance, 20%, 10%. We've got the 20%. Then the 20, which is 1.5 in our case, is the standard shaft length. 15 equals 15mm. So the standard shaft length, I guess, is determined by L. It's not very clear. Shaft style K, then resistance and taper. So length 15. So length 15. Okay, so the length 15 is overall. So this is our pot. So we can choose from the 10 or the 20% tolerance. Let's go with the 10. It's the same cost anyway, and it's got a tighter tolerance. So $3.60. Throw, I don't know, look at our quantity breaks there. 10 of, you get a bit of a discount, almost $1 discount actually, so it is worth buying 10 or more. I might buy 20, and then I've got them in stock. And now the good thing, champions, is now that we've cracked the code of this particular pot, we know the rest of the series have been used in the same amp. So we can play with these numbers. So say we want an A50K, which is the gain and the line out pot. We can just change that code, the relative part, and hopefully our component pops up. There it is. Okay. 761 in stock. Can dispatch immediately. I'll just get 10 of them. Another $30 down the drain. It's about what a 4-pack of beer costs these days anyway, I guess. So we'll use that part number again. And what else have we got to do? A logarithmic 50K, a 50K, but we want the 2 gang. So we'll go 902. Search. No keyword. What did I screw up there? None available. Okay, let's try the 20% version. Higher tolerance. When I say higher tolerance, I mean more tolerance, which means less accurate. So 2015K. Alright, 657 in stock. So that's a dual gang. 2 gang 50K, 25 milliwatts, 150 volts, 20%, 1 turn. Alright. Let's just get... we get 10 of them, get the quantity discount, because that's it's about $1. Now I've got the horrible task of looking at the total cost of my basket. $840. Oh, there's back-ordered items on my basket. Great. So that's the next challenge. You leave the basket open for a while because you've got a bunch of jobs coming in, and the only way to avoid exorbitant shipping costs is to order over a certain dollar value. So now in that time between me putting something in the cart and me hitting order, something's on back order. And there we go, 20 items on back order. So that's just a 3.3 meg metal film through hole 0.5 watt resistor. So I'm sure I could find something else to fill that. And I think that's the only one. 840 does not include GST. So that's $1,000 worth of components, just components, and all small ticket stuff. No big items, but this is what it takes to keep a workshop well stocked. Very costly. A lot of money sitting there just waiting to repair your fine devices. Oh, the one high ticket item I do have in there is my new Kelvin probes, four wire multimeter probes for my new super accurate 6-digit multimeter. New to me. So now I've got, basically I could make up replacement pot kits for mark-based amplifiers. The next challenge is finding someone who can solder and desolder to one of these boards. The surface mount components primarily, combination of surface mount and through hole. But very tiny traces, very delicate. Once you crack the code for a particular amplifier, often you can find a lot of the other components for that same amplifier with different values. Repeat that process for every different pot type and different value in the amp. Some may be available, some may not. But all of this adds to the cost of the repair because time is money. This is just a potentiometer. Imagine looking for a particular Class D chip or even something obsolete or some weird hardware thing like a push button multi-gang switch. You may have to trawl places like eBay. You may get ripped off by certain websites. It's a bit of a shit fight finding components for amplifiers when the manufacturers don't sell the individual components, which they pretty much never do. It's almost more cost effective, not quite in this case, I have run the figures, but it's almost more cost effective to just get yourself the new board with all the hardware on it, which is why these days we all lament, you know, having to replace modules instead of actual components, component level repair. But the majority of the reason why is the time required, the shipping, the cost of the parts, the availability of the parts. It's often more practical to just get the replacement module. I know people will argue about this in the comments. If you've got all day to repair an amp, good for you, but you're not trying to run a business. You don't have overheads. You don't have 100 amps in the queue. You don't have people on the phone every day ringing you asking for status updates when you haven't done anything to their amp because you're doing stuff like this all day for the previous 100 in the queue before the one they brought in. So I just thought I'd offer you this. I'm not trying to whinge. I'm just trying to let you guys know why repairs take as long as they do and why they cost what they do. Just trying to let you a little bit behind the scenes here just to show you what actually occurs that I don't video, because who wants to watch this? Well, you just did. So I'll see you on the next one, champions. Hopefully I've got some more time to do videos of this kind of thing, the behind the scenes stuff. Maybe like how do I quote things, how do I estimate things. There's a lot of dart throwing involved there and a lot of risk. But over the years you learn how to reduce that risk and hopefully be able to make a living off it. We're not getting rich here anytime soon, but we're keeping musos playing loudly and we're keeping the hobbyists enjoying their spare time playing their instruments and they're playing with their little toys. So join me on the next one, champions. Like and subscribe, or I'll make you do my parametric searches next time instead of me. See you on the next one.